Hey everybody, good morning. It's Jillian. Had a lot of stuff going on this morning and I was up really, really early, but I wanted to tackle a few things for this move we'll be doing pretty soon. So, just getting a jump on it, finally wrapping my head around that. Yes, I will be moving not too far away, so that's good. But yeah, I had to fix my phone. And when you have to fix your phone and you have to set it back to factory resets, it's a pain in the ass because all these different two-step authentications and whatever else, it's crazy. So if you're not very technically savvy, it's very difficult to make changes if you don't know what the hell you're doing. And luckily, I understand how data works and the different unique identifiers and the different, things that go along with it. And I have a lot of security measures in place because obviously I have to. I have idiots out there that want to do stupid stuff. So anyways, so that was kind of interesting. So I finally fixed my phone. So I'm really, really happy with that. And really quick, I do want to talk about hormone manipulation because that's what is huge in the allopathic / holistic industry. All those tests that you take when you're in the naturopathic office is all about measuring hormone levels, but they call them vitamin A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G. And they also mention certain minerals, which, okay, fine. But really all the different vitamins that you are being prescribed in the naturopathic office. So if you are an integrative nutritionist, if you are a naturopathic, if you are anything in the allopathic / holistic, you are actually dealing with hormone replacement therapy. And then when someone writes in, so you give a questionnaire and say, oh, all these different questions. How are you feeling today? What are your usual symptoms today or yesterday or whatever? What is your issue? Why are you coming to this office? And you naturopathics as well as nutritionists know what kind of questionnaires you give to your clients because you're trying to figure out what exactly are they deficient in as far as hormone levels. But we've since discovered that when you induce hormones on a continuous basis, it keeps depleting your body's life force. Hormones deplete body's life force. So when you keep inducing hormones and manipulating hormones on a continuous basis, and that translates into smells, into food, into sound, into meditative type, religious type groupthink practices, it translates into almost everything that gets a person to feel a specific way. So nutrition, strategic nutrition, not the nutrition to where you're doing plant-based therapies and playing with somebody's hormones. And that's funny, Faith. No, this is strategic nutrition to where you are taking certain types of cruciferous vegetables and fruits and regular whole foods, and then you are actually breaking it down. Your body, who is finally able to work the way it's supposed to, it breaks it down, gets access to those nutrients, and then what happens is it disperses the nutrients to its prospective places. It's not something that you actually can go in and manipulate yourself. You don't know how to disperse those nutrients to different places when you're eating food. It does it for you. It's an involuntary mechanism. It's an involuntary type of process that nobody in the holistic allopathic world has any business trying to manipulate on their own, but yet people do. And guess what that turns into? That turns into crazy, awesome sports stars like Tom Brady. What is he, over 40 years old? And I'm sure he's getting so many different manipulations in the holistic world because that's where he's part of, is part of the holistic world. And he was on his game last night. Makes you kind of wonder why, because when you do manipulate your hormones, taking adrenaline, if you're somehow feeling deficient or feeling tired or not focused or not very loving, not very sexual, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling all the feelings that a person would come to a doctor, all that has to do with hormones. Yes, we can call it deficiency. Yes, we can call it malnutrition. Yes, we can call it all these different things. And yes, they would all be appropriate because the way in which our body right now is being subject to all these attacks, it is dealing with now mutations that where they can't process regular foods correctly, like whole foods correctly, as far as fruits and vegetables. So someone who's a vegan vegetarian who has mutations, and it's because they changed from a all processed food, crappy food diet to now vegan and vegetarian. Yeah, they may see superficial changes, but they're not regenerating at the level that they should be, so they still look aged. They still look like they're on a death trajectory. So then what do? They still feel kind of shitty, and so they think that because they're organic, vegan, vegetarian, they go need to see their integrative nutrition therapist. Therapist should tell you exactly what the hell is going on. They are totally playing with your hormones. Because you know therapists out there that are playing with those tests, those computer models that you get from biotech. And you take either urine or blood or some kind of DNA sample from your clients, you're just testing the hormone levels. And then they're slapping a name, vitamin A, vitamin C, you need, magnesium or something else. So all you guys are doing are playing with your clients' hormones, making them even more cattywampus. You're not really getting to the root cause. You're just finding ways to supplement. That's what supplements are. They're playing with your hormones. So when you play with someone's hormones to such an extent, you see for a short amount of time, people are working at their maximum level. Go look at the Adderall addicts in college. The young kids that are trying to compete with their counterparts, just go watch some of these Netflix videos on showing the Adderall epidemic with kids who want to compete with other kids who are on drugs. And what does it do when they're taking these specific meth type products? It makes them more focused. It makes them more like productivity ricochet rabbits. No different than taking a coffee, a Monster, or some other type of, I would say, hormone inducing or hormone therapy, or mood enhancers or stabilizers or something else. When someone's completely depressed, what do they take? They take some kind of medication that brings up their levels of serotonin. No different. Those strong prescription drugs are no different than the mild supplements that you get from Dr. Mercola. No different than in prescribing somebody some kind of dandelion root or some kind of detox like kombucha or apple cider vinegar or bentonite clay or zeolite or something else. And so now I understand the integrative nutrition therapists. They're just a lay person learning how to take types of foods to manipulate someone's hormones. So I'm not impressed with all you nutritional therapists out there. You're no different than the allopathic market, just on a milder scale. You're not working with crazy pharmaceutical grade types of products. No, you're now playing with plant-based therapies, fucking up your patients even more. So yes, I did get a taste in my group of the different people who have taken tests, who said they're taking my Jilly Juice and they've taken the tests from their naturopathic. They're like, oh wow, the tests show that your juice is now bringing up my levels of vitamin D. Your test or your juice is showing that it's actually altering the test results to what it's supposed to be. Now I'm not so deficient in this anymore. Oh, I see the connection of what your juice is doing and how it's manipulating the results. And so then I'm like, okay, so why aren't these people who are in the holistic world totally throwing away that whole methodology of playing with plant-based therapies, of playing with pills, powders, and supplements, and just strictly doing Jilly Juice? Because Jilly Juice is taking the nutrients, or taking the cabbage and the kale, breaking it down through lacto fermentation, using salt as the energizing force, but not just any salt, it is pink salt. And so when the person drinks it, they're not trying to then manipulate each specific hormone and trying to compartmentalize each specific nutrient and say, hey, okay, you need 2 milligrams of this, 5 milligrams of this. No, they're actually trusting the body. The body is being able to be trusted to take this nutrition in and disperse it on its own relative to the intelligence of the body. Oh no, you being a nutritional therapist, you are now you're doing the hormone replacement therapies. You're just another glorified pharmacist. with a different package. And so that's why I did get very annoyed with some of my inner circle who still play with the nutritional therapies, who still play with the MLMs, who still play with all of those pills, powders, and supplements and detoxes, because they really didn't understand at all Jilly Juice. They were riding the wave because it was trendy back then a couple years ago. So that's why I had to let go of a few people. One was Angie Torres. Yes, I let her go because she still played the game. Couldn't really understand that Jilly Juice actually was the only thing that she needed to do. No, she wanted to now go play people's hormones. And maybe she might introduce Jilly Juice, but probably not really, because pain is part of the process. And what nutritional therapists do is they don't even look at pain, because that would piss off their clients. Their clients aren't looking to induce pain. Their clients are looking to disappear symptoms. So what do the doctors and the therapists do, whether nutrition or pharmaceutical or regular doctors and naturopathics do? They figure out what hormone is not like up to snuff, or they figure out where you're more imbalanced. So now you have too much adrenaline or too little energy. And then they just give you stuff to then up your energy levels. Okay? Or you're not focused, you have brain fog. So what do? They take a hormone and give you some, and they tap into that, or something with adrenochrome they do in the crazy Illuminati stuff. Okay? So I'm sorry, but nutritional therapist, you're nothing more than a glorified hormone replacement therapist specialist. And then people like Tom Brady or other Olympians out there are also being altered by hormones. It's laughable that they're taking people who are transgender, which is perfectly fine, and saying, okay, well, we're going to have this guy compete in the women's, competition. So, it doesn't even matter anymore. We shouldn't even have men and women anymore. It's all about how do you manipulate hormones, because really nobody has an expectation in the mainstream to live past 100. So if you live only to be like 50 or 60, completely mutated, manipulated hormones, then hey, it doesn't matter if you live to like, if you're okay with dying, because you can manipulate your hormones to live a certain amount of time, and then you're going to die anyways. But yeah, during that 10, 20 years of your manipulations and your mutations, you're going to make a shit ton of money. And wow, everyone's going to be impressed with you. Be like, oh yeah, you're so awesome. You're a genius. You are, you're way head and shoulders above all of your friends and your peers. Oh no, Tom Brady and everybody else in football and basketball and all of those different sports all been manipulated with hormones. But they won't call it drugs, because they do test for specific illicit drugs like steroids or something else. But no, if you take specific hormone type replacement therapy, and I'm sure there's friendlier versions of doing that, hey, it's not a drug according to the industry. It's another conglomeration of stuff to keep you on your game for a certain amount of time, for the 3 or 4 hours that you're playing football or something else. And so then I got this email from some lady from Vietnam. Okay. And she's one of the refugees. She knows that I'm Vietnamese, and she knows that I was adopted from the end of the Vietnam War. And she's very concerned about the information that I'm putting out there, as far as, I'll read you this, because I want you guys to see exactly what it is that I get. And this is and I'm sure she's probably watching me, which is good. So, dear Ms. Jillian Mai T, as a person who grew up in the rural of the South Vietnam countryside during the Vietnam War, it was difficult for many of the people around me who were growing up to receive vaccinations that would prove to be crucial during the refugee crisis when we were escaping to other countries. I was lucky enough to have been the daughter of a doctor. I was given vaccinations and other Western vaccinations that have protected me. Some of my older family members were not as lucky. My uncle, who didn't want to stray from cultural medicine and Chinese traditional remedies, died first due to exposure of measles. So I'm gonna put a pause there for a minute. Your people, okay, my people, when you're in a country that you have not been exposed to all of these different pathogens, it is very difficult to be able to survive the onslaught of the amount of antigen your body's going to have, or the amount of antibodies your body's going to have to then create get created because of that antigen, those pathogens. And that's why you don't mix A, B, and O blood together, because the onslaught of antigen from an A and a B positive blood type to an O negative would then shut the body down, thus, yes, death. So, vaccines have been used to be able to help people transition who are not actually practicing strategic nutrition. Because guess what? Traditional Chinese medicine is antibody-inducing protocols that cause the aging process and that causes the death process, not only in America, but also in Vietnam. So your uncle and whoever else already came into a situation completely mutated. So of course, you get exposed to any type of pathogen, whether it is from the Westerners or any other conglomeration of elements that are negative. Yes, they're going to succumb. But the reason why is because you don't have already a foundation that is strong enough to be able to withstand any type of negative elements in the area, to be able to repair the damage from that onslaught. Because my whole point of the anti-vax, pro-vax, getting away from the activism, because they're two sides of the same coin, is to stop inducing antibodies and stop mainstreaming the fact that we need to be exposed to disease on a daily basis, minutely basis, whatever basis. That we actually need to put the focus on strategic nutrition and have a very different expectation. Not the expectation that we live to 100 and that's it, which I see on TV all the time. Oh yeah, you want to live to 100. But then that's kind of the programming where they put out there that, hey, if you're lucky enough, you can live to 100. But if not, then you'll be dying around 50 or 60. So maybe Vietnam needs to change their paradigm and start looking at my information. I'm not just anti-vaccination, because that's still part of the programming out there in the activist world and in the medical world. No, I'm antibody. I am tired of the acquisition of antibodies to say that we are healthy. Because when you acquire antibodies on a continuous basis without repairing the damage, guess what? You run the risk of autoimmunity, and you run the risk of also aging. Which, yeah, when you have the acquisition of antibodies on a continuous basis and you're not repairing the damage those antibodies did to you, yes, you are rapidly aging. And guess what? One day, those mutated vital organs are going to then give out from the antibody acquisition practices in the vaccination world, the anti-vax world, the holistic industry that plays with hormones. But for them to play with hormones, they have to bring in a pathogen, an antigen, to then induce an antibody, which then triggers the hormones. Because when hormones get triggered, it's because the body is in duress. The reason why you have hormones is to temporarily protect you from imminent danger. It's the body's defense mechanisms. But you keep manipulating your body's defense mechanisms, guess what? You're going to be running that battery down and then dying. I mean, come on. So that's great that you're from Vietnam. That's great that you're a refugee. Congratulations, you're here in America. You did half the battle. What's the other half? Is to understand that now you have the potential to change some of your traditions and cultures and actually take in new information. Maybe the traditional Chinese practices aren't really something we should be continuing. Obviously. It's not like, I mean, China has been very beneficial in a lot of the different inventions like firecrackers and other stuff. But traditional Chinese medicine is actually very antibiotic inducing. They use herbs, they play with hormones like acupuncture. They play with all types of stuff that they do in the West, but in a different form. Eastern and Western medicine are absolutely no different. They both induce antibodies because they both have the expectation that people die around 100 or less. They're not looking to prolong life, but not just like, okay, living a little bit longer. They don't look at the body as a self-regenerating thing if it's in the right conditions. Because of, I don't know what from why Noah, who lived to be like 900, and why he died, and why back then people were living to be thousands and thousands of years old, and then one day it went only to be like 100. why even 120 is even mentioned in the Bible. That's still not very long, 120. We have people today that, very rare amount of people, but there are people today that are living to about 115, 120. So that's not revolutionary. So anyone that reads in the Bible and only takes the Bible's worth of that, oh, 120 is the only, sorry, but you're limiting yourself. You realize the human body has tremendous amount of power if it's given the right types of elements and in the right conditions, regardless of all the chemtrails and the 5G and whatever the hell else that they're totally like pissed off about out there. So thank you for your contribution and your comment in your email, Miss Vietnamese lady, who wants to totally like educate me on vaccinations. But I think you need to change your perspective and question why it is that we are dying around 100. Because if you're able to live this long, then why couldn't you keep continuing life? Why is death accepted? Okay? And maybe America invading Vietnam for whatever reason was a good thing. Because given what we are now looking at today, I'm thinking the fact that we invaded Vietnam was probably not a bad thing. Because if we hadn't invaded Vietnam, I wouldn't be here. I'd be out there in the rice paddies or doing whatever it is people do when they're born in Vietnam. They do whatever their tradition does. I wouldn't be here today figuring out with you guys what the next thing is for humanity. So, so let's take it a step further than what traditions you have practiced, and maybe we can change the expectation a little bit. But it would take for you to get my book and read it, and question some of your traditions. And if you can't question your traditions and this protocol isn't for you, there's no reason to try to impose your belief system onto me. There is no reason to do that. People who try to impose their belief systems onto other people without understanding boundaries already have a hormonal imbalance, and either they face up to it or they go down the same trajectory and stop taking everybody down with them. But if they do, that's on them. But I ain't gonna be taking down that death trajectory with you. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're Vietnamese, Korean, or whatever. Time to change traditions. And if you can't change your tradition and your paradigm, and you're happy with the way your life is, then more power to you. But don't impose your belief system onto me. All right, that's all I got to say. I have things to do today, but you guys have an amazing day. Go to jillyjuice.com, JILLYJUICE.com, and have a good one. Make it good. Drink the juice.